Welcome to Book Huddle. I'm your host, Karen Reader with Readgab. Today we have author Dana Robertson with us, and she wrote this fun book that just barely came out when you guys are listening called The Abandoned Theater. It is part of the Alderland series and the first book in the series. But first, Dana, I just really want you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you that's not about being an author.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I live in Oshawa, Ontario, just outside of Toronto,
Cool.
and which is in Canada. And I previously worked as a youth counselor and in vocational rehabilitation with injured workers.
Neat.
And I also owned and operated an indoor children's playground most recently. But now I'm pretty much writing and traveling. And if I'm not writing or traveling, I'm thinking about traveling and researching traveling and watching traveling videos. So, yeah, it's a little about me.
So fun. So fun. All right. So I love to do an author icebreaker and I just pick a book. So we're going to do Harry Potter. My family, we're going to be going to the Harry Potter studio in London this summer. And so that's totally been on my mind. Dana, can you tell us what house would you be placed in and why?
Okay, so I would be happy to be anywhere in Hogwarts because I absolutely
Get me
love the Harry
there.
Potter series. Absolutely love them. I would like to think I'm Gryffindor, but I think I would be Ravenclaw. And I think it's because I like to think I think and analyze. I've been told I overthink and overanalyze, but I really enjoy learning and creative. And I think maybe that's more associated with Ravenclaw.
Nice, nice. All right. Well, perfect. Dana, will you now tell us a little bit about the Abandoned Theater for those who have not heard of it?
Sure. So it centers around an abandoned theater and it closed mysteriously the same night that the theater owner disappeared. And the book starts about 8 years later, and another person has gone missing. So when the main character, 12-year-old Beth, finds out it's actually one of her friends, she sets off with a couple of other friends to look for him and to try to solve the mystery of the theater. And they end up on an adventurous journey to a dark and dangerous world.
I love that it's compared to Narnia meets the Goonies. How fun is this? Narnia and Goonies goes head to head in
I
just
love it.
fantastical adventure, this magic and mystery. I love it. And these quirky characters, so much fun. In your book, memories are so important to the characters and to the story, really. One person's memories. Why are memories important to, for one, answer it in two parts. Answer it about the characters in the book, and why do you feel memories are important to individuals in real life?
So I'll start just with individuals. So I think for all of us, everything we do is shaped by our memories, how we react to things, whether we react positively or negatively. It really is how, we've experienced the world and our memories of the world. So positive memories, you can relive them over and over, which is a wonderful thing. But negative memories, we can learn from them, so that's important too. Specific to Beth, you can often find too that memories can be distracting. So
Right?
in her case, she has to deal with a whole lot of memories at one time, including a traumatic memory at a time where she can't process it. So sometimes they can be distracting, but for the most part, they really do shape us. And for writing, I find it's really interesting that a lot of childhood memories influence writers. And I actually had a few come to mind with that regard.
Yeah, so tell
Want
us
me to
then how your childhood experiences influenced writing the abandoned theater.
So for me, I'll give you a couple of examples. One, I grew up on a lake in a subdivision, and there was an island across the lake, and it just seemed so mysterious because we didn't know what was on the island, and we wanted to get in our canoe and go and explore it, which we never did. But the more we imagined what was on that island, the more mysterious it became, and I think that really influenced sort of the place of the Winneda property and how it's across the lake from the small town where the kids live and they take the raft to get across. So I know that definitely influenced it. And another example, I grew up going to summer camps. My dad was a teacher, and in the summers, he would be a director of the camp. So we lived at the camp. Funny enough, it was a boys' camp. So my sisters and I were the only girls. And boys' camps, they do a lot scarier things, I think, that they do at girl camps. But so they spent a lot of time scaring us. But one thing specifically that influenced the book, I remember they told us there was this bird called the snipe, and it had a very long, sharp beak, and it would attack us. So we had to catch it. So they sent us off in groups of three, and it was attracted to light. So one of us carried a flashlight in the night. Of course, they sent us out in the night. One carried a bag, and one carried a stick to subdue it. So off we went. And I didn't know it wasn't real, but the more scared I got, the more real it seemed.
Ooh,
And I was
right.
sure I heard it and I was sure I saw it. And I think that influenced the Scarta characters in the book because the birds, the more afraid the kids are, the more dangerous they are to them. So
Right.
that I think was a little influence from my camp adventure.
Yeah, and our imaginations just feed off of our fears, they become reality.
Yes.
Yeah. So, going back to memories, how do memories lead us in the decisions that we make in our lives?
Um, well, I think they definitely influence us creatively, like we just talked about. And I think, the negative memories really teach us when we've made mistakes. For example, something as simple as hurting someone's feeling, it can shape the way that you talk to that person in the future. Positive experiences, really shape things that we enjoy, things you remember that you love from childhood, you're going to be drawn to as an adult. And that's when, teachers and parents and all those different people can really influence what you might love later. Your early
Yes, your
experiences really influence
interactions,
it.
yeah, with them
Yes. Yeah.
might make an impact on, somebody who had an amazing teacher might want to be a teacher, and somebody who had a good
Yes.
experience with something else will lead them to want to do that. Yeah.
Yes. And subjects you grow to love. Yeah.
Yes. Could you imagine life without memories, whether it be from, some kind of accident, crazy car accident, or if there was real magic? What?
Yes.
Paint us a little picture of life without memories.
Yeah. So that would be really boring.
Right?
You wouldn't have, as much emotional reaction to things, and you wouldn't have, that whole multi-layered part of yourself because a lot of how you react to things and how you experience things are from your childhood and from your memories. So I think it would be pretty boring.
Right? You lose those connections with people and places and events. Those connections are no longer there. And
Yes.
so, you know, it,
Yeah,
it
exactly.
probably also lacks, losing memories loses ambition and re purpose, right? It makes you
Yes.
lose a purpose to what you're doing.
Yes.
Because why do it if you're
And you can
not
always make
fulfilled?
new ones for people that actually really
Yes,
do
absolutely.
deal with that, right? But we're kind of imagining it from our own memory.
Right, right, for sure. All right. So can you tell us other instances where real life events that may be going on in the world influence the abandoned theater?
um, Not sort of in the big picture world, but in my house, I
Yes.
have an example. So
Well,
I
that's
was
the world.
writing,
Your
yeah,
house is in the
in
world.
my world.
Yes, that is your whole world. Well, not your whole world, but yeah.
That's right. That's right. So I was writing a scene where the kids first go into the theater. So it's
Yes.
kind of a spooky scene, and I love writing the spooky parts and the dangerous parts because I get really into it. So, my heart's pounding and it feels very eerie. I was home alone and the house was quiet. And then I heard a really loud tapping sound. And I could not for the life of me figure out where it was coming from. And it was literally echoing throughout the house, completely freaking me out. So eerie. I ended up looking up. And when my son was young, he shot a Nerf blaster into the air and the dart had stuck to the skylight.
Oh,
And there was a massive crow pecking
trying to
at
get that
the
dart.
dart. And it was making this massive pecking noise throughout the house. And it was so spooky that I went back to my computer and had crows literally just descend upon the theater.
Right. When you're in a dark situation to have that tap, 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 tap.
Yes. Oh, it
Oh,
was so strange.
sets up for perfect spooky, right?
Yeah.
So another big theme for characters in your book is trust. Multiple characters have issue with trust in different ways and on different levels, right? So what would you hope a reader would take away because of this topic of trust?
So I think with trust, it kind of boils down to intention.
Okay.
So for Beth in the story, she has some friends that she really trusts and they really are there for her. And she has some adults she thought she could trust and felt like they betrayed her in some ways. But it boils down to the intention. So in the case of her aunt, who kept a really big secret from her, her intention was to protect her.
Right.
So in that case, it really boils down to what the person's intention is. So, and knowing what the intention is sometimes difficult. So Beth's going to learn that in book two, that not everybody she thought she could trust had the best intentions. And for kids, or for all of us really, trusting yourself,
Yes.
it's sort of the first
That's
step
big. Yes.
to making those meaningful, trustworthy relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then like Terry really learns that, because she don't trust anybody. She's like, no, don't trust him. Don't trust him. Don't trust
Yeah,
him.
that's
Almost to
right.
the point that you're like, you wonder, well, can I not trust anybody? Because if one character just keeps saying, oh, be careful of him, don't trust him, or him, we don't trust anybody.
Yeah.
So it really influences the development of the character of their ability to trust or not. Makes you
Yeah.
wonder. So when you're creating these, we have a phrase that comes up multiple times in your story that they say, may the purity of goodness protect us. May the light be with you. And then also restore the light. So can you tell us about creating phrases and words and why you chose these particular phrases?
So that particular phrase, funny enough, I didn't really think about. It was just sort of, those moments where
Just
you're
came out of
writing
your
and it
brain
just
and you wrote it.
came out. And there's many times where I have a thought in my head or I envision something in my head and I'm struggling to find the words to get them
Right?
on the paper. And then there's other times where you're just sort of writing and it comes out. And that was sort of one of those times. And
Right.
then I just could kind of picture the muses murmuring it at the beginning. And I thought, okay, it stays.
Right, right. So what made you feel good about it then? That it just felt right when you saw it written down.
Just the positivity, I think, because
Nice.
they enter that world that's so dark.
Right?
So to give, that there is hope and there is positivity, and protecting each other.
Right, right. So tell us in your writing, what was the hardest part to write this story?
The battle scene. And funny enough, when I had the earlier drafts, I didn't write it at all. I had the kids arrive at the end of the battle
Right?
because that was easier.
And then you
And
get
then
another
I
mess
thought,
with it.
no, that's right. Yay, it's over.
It's got to be
But
hard to decide. You're writing for middle grade. You've got to decide how much am I going to put in and how gory is this going to be? How violent?
yes, definitely. And then I find a lot of times when you find something's difficult, the characters kind of take over. I felt like I needed to show the chaos, I needed to show the fear. And as I wrote it, Beth kind of took over and she literally rode right through,
Yeah.
swords clashing, Moltars and Scouters and Tigers, and she's right in the center of it. So she kind of did it for me.
Nice, nice. Well, then on the other side, Dana, what was either the most rewarding or enjoyable part of writing the abandoned theater?
Enjoyable is the sort of spooky parts, which I didn't realize I liked spooky so much.
Right?
But it's fun. You get heart pumping and
Yes.
it's fun.
I that was me. Just in the last year, I didn't know I loved spooky so much because in college, just one movie in particular just crushed me. It was too scary. And so ever since then, I was like, nope, nope, nothing. And then I discovered middle grade spooky and I was like, ooh, this is scary and it gets my heart pounding, but I don't think about it for weeks and weeks on end. And so, yeah,
That's right. That's my kind of scary too. I can't do
right,
horrors because
right,
then they don't leave my mind. Like horror movies, I can't do like adult
right,
ones. But yeah, like a good kid spooky's fun.
right. Why did you start writing? What made you want to become a writer?
I've always wrote, I know a lot of writers say that you're always scribbling things
Yes.
down. And when I went to school, I loved English class. I loved studying literature. I really enjoyed writing and reading. And I studied English and psychology at school, but I worked in psychology. As I said, I worked in that field. But I always loved the literature, the writing. So it wasn't until recently that I was able to really focus on that, but just something I've always enjoyed doing.
Love it. So is that why you still write or has it changed?
Oh, yeah, I just love it. I
Yeah.
feel like I've gone on an adventure, when I'm writing.
Oh, I'm so glad that you've maintained that love for it. What do you do then to recharge? Because there's got to be times that are hard to keep going.
So for writing, if I find I'm just not feeling motivated, I read. That just sort of gets your creativity going again. And in life in general, watching travel videos,
Oh, fun.
researching travel. I love researching travel. So that's a good recharger for me.
Oh, that is so awesome. So pretend that the main character has the ability to give you some advice. If Beth could go and write a letter to you, maybe even to your teenage self, what would she advise you on?
I think just how fast time goes to, really revel in the moment, really enjoy the moment. Don't be in a hurry to grow up. Don't be in a hurry to get to the next thing. You can dream about the next thing and research the next thing like travel, but
Right.
enjoy the moment. That can be part of the moment, but just really enjoy the moment. And then it ties into the memories too. The more you're present in the moment, the more you can relive it later. So just how fast time goes and to really treasure those moments.
Beautiful, beautiful. Can you tell me what did you learn personally through writing the abandoned theater?
About the writing process, what I learned is how many rewrites it involves. You
Yes,
know, you
right? Oh
do
my
the
God.
you do the writing part, and the writing part is so fun because, it doesn't matter where it's going to go. You're just having fun with it.
Right.
And then you start doing the rewrites and you start thinking, about a little more of the mechanical stuff and a little more of the descriptive stuff. And it's just so many rewrites. I didn't realize how many rewrites.
That it would take. Right, right. So that was about you. So now about the reader, those consuming your book. Is there anything that you're hoping that the reader will take away?
So I hope they have fun reading it, like I had writing it.
That
That's
should
number
always be
one is,
first and foremost. Yes.
yeah, I had a lot of fun writing it, and I hope they have fun reading it and look forward to, the next one, which I'm having fun. I'm actually having fun doing the final rewrite, but and maybe relate to the characters a little bit, loyalty and friendship and all that sort of stuff,
Right. Absolutely, absolutely.
resilience, hope.
Yes. Oh, so powerful. Definitely. Can you tell us what's next? Because there's more coming in the series, right? And give us a little
Yes.
teaser. I guess not
Yeah,
too
so right
because we
now,
haven't,
what's that, sorry?
how can we give a teaser without spoiling the first book, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I won't say too much, but so book two, I'm in the final draft, and in it, Beth's settling into her life in a new place. She experiences a crisis, and later in the book, her friends return, go on some more adventures together, and then there'll be a book three. But before I get into the rewrites of book three, I'm actually finishing an adult murder mystery.
Oh,
So I'm going to
neat.
finish that one first. Yeah, and then I'll get back to book three,
Oh, that's
which
so
I can't
fun.
wait to write,
Yes. Oh, that is so fun.
or I should say rewrite.
So you love to read, apparently, if you love writing, I would hope. So can you
Yeah.
tell us a favorite children's book?
Yes. So I have a picture of it, but then I have a little story about the actual copy I have. So Witch in the House.
Okay.
Can you see it? By Ruth
Fine.
Chu.
Okay.
It was one of my favorite books as a kid, and that's my copy.
Oh,
So it's
fun.
about a witch that's upside down, and
Okay.
the kids have to get all kinds of ingredients to make a brew, and they go on adventures to get the ingredients so that she can go right side up again. But the funny story, I was in my 20s and I
Mhm.
was thrift shopping with my mom, and I came upon this book, this copy of Witch in
Right,
the House.
right.
And I told her, "Oh my God, Mom, this book, I loved it as a child. It's about the witch, blah, blah, blah." And her face dropped. And I'm like, "What?" And she said, when you were a child, you came home from school and you had written a story about your dad and I. And in it, your dad sounded so fantastic and you made me a witch. And I was this witch sitting on a house outside your school. And I never said anything because I knew you loved me, but I always thought, why does dad
Thanks for
sound so
that.
good? And I sound like a witch. And then she finally realized that it was like a huge compliment because I love the book.
The Witch in the House. I love that so much. It's hard for mothers to be perceived maybe as the villain. I was talking
Yeah.
to
In
Philippa
this case, it was a
lately.
good witch.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's a good witch. It's a good witch.
Yeah.
Everything's okay.
Yeah.
Because yeah, she asked me, how do you perceive the mom in the story? Because my mom did not appreciate that the mom in this story was a villain. And so mothers are
Oh,
sensitive when their kids get writing.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Especially when they make them a witch.
Especially when they make them a witch. Are you a good witch or a bad witch? That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Dana, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today about the abandoned
Well,
theater.
thank you.
I hope that you enjoyed hearing about the abandoned theater. If you enjoy my podcast, Book Huddle, I would love for you to take a minute and rate and review it on your podcast platform. That will help more people find Book Huddle. Now go and have a fantastic week reading some amazing books.